It is 3 o'clock, so I'd like to call the meeting of the Beaufort County Board of Education Academics Committee to order. Held on October 23rd, 2025 at 3 p.m. District Educational Services Center Conference Room E, and also remote hybrid conferencing. This meeting will be live streamed on the school board's YouTube channel. To speak during the academic committee public comments, please sign up using the public comment form. You can find the BOE public comment form on our website. You will receive a call during the public comments where you will be able to speak and address the committee for a maximum of 3 minutes on issues within the committee's domain. Forum will be limited to 15 minutes. Citizens desiring to participate in person must fill out a public comment card that can be obtained from the board clerk on arrival. We'll start with a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
So, yes, we need a motion to approve the agenda with the add-on of the, oh, yes.
So there's we need a motion to approve. I move we approve the, Chloe needs to.
Make the motion and you could second it. If you.
Ms. Gordon, can you make a motion to approve the agenda, please?
You are muted if you're on. Yeah, said she was 2 minutes out. Ms. Gordon, you're muted if you're trying to get on. Okay. Yeah. This moment, we can't do it. That was her. She's trying to rejoin.
Karen. The letter here.
Okay.
That you were looking
That's
for.
perfect. I was.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Read. So now you put this in the middle. So you can have a response over.
Yeah. Okay, that's it.
Embed it. Try to remove it.
Leah's iPhone just came on.
Hi, Leah, you're muted, but can you make a motion to approve the agenda?
I would like to make a motion to approve the agenda.
With the, you can read that for her.
Leah, I'm going to read this. I move that the academic committee add health advisory committee update to the October 23rd, 2025 agenda.
I second that.
You're actually making that motion. He needs you to make that motion if you don't mind. And Dr. Carr can second it.
Okay. I make a motion to add the Health Advisory Committee minutes or topics to the October 23rd, 2025 Academic Committee meeting.
I'll second that.
All
Thank
those
you.
in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Are there any public comments?
No public comments.
And Leah, can you make a motion to on the September 23rd committee meeting minutes?
I make a motion to approve the September 23rd, 2025 Academic Committee meeting minutes.
Thank you. I will second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Thank you. And we will move to OE 13 discipline.
Okay, so then, so.
That is me.
Okay.
So for those in physical attendance, you have a binder in front of you. For those that are online, there's been a scanned PDF version of OE 13 discipline for those in physical attendance. So what you will do is follow me. You'll just turn your binder and be able to flip as we follow along. Okay. I do want to say that the artifacts under each area of this are going to be embedded within each tab so that you won't have to flip back and forth when we're done. So the slides that we'll go through today, they're behind each of those slides. There will be during each area, the artifact will be embedded right in there. Okay. So again, this is we are doing OE 13, which is on discipline. If you go to the slide right there that Robin's got on, that shows all the different areas of OE 13 that we are required to report out on to the academic committee. And then each of these tabs is a different area of the OE. So 13.1 through 13.7. Okay. So before you do that, you have an executive summary there, and it just summarizes what you're going to see in this manual or notebook that we have here today. And it just talks about our continued commitment to fostering safe, structured, and supportive learning environments. Also, you're going to hear in here what's called MTSS, that's multi-tiered systems of support. And it talks about our framework and how we do that and what we are currently. There are some updates in here, but I want to reemphasize that the information and data presented in this is from the 24-25 school year. Doesn't include any information that would be from the start of school until now. Okay. All right. So if we go to the first one, so this is your first tab in the binder. This is 13.1 and this is stakeholder information. And show it essentially the slide is up there. I'm going to summarize these so I'm not reading each slide to everyone. As I'm going through these, if you have a question or if you need me to stop at any point or speed up or slow down, just let me know. Okay. So the first part is about stakeholder involvement. And so it shows that part of that is updating our policies, not just our administrative regulation, but our discipline matrix that we review annually. And it talks about how we got feedback, including surveys of different focus groups we've done, not just within the school board, but within our principals, our administrative staff at the school level and district level, and with our teachers. Okay. And so the next slide is a little more detailed information. So the first one is a distributed MTSS tiered fidelity inventory. That was essentially something we did with each school last year. Each school had the opportunity to kind of self-evaluate their MTSS program. So at their school or their process at their school, to see how we collectively as a system could do that. And so it shows if the second point there shows the different groups that we reach out to. So each school principal was a part of that. The MTSS team. So each school site will have a team established to monitor their process. And then the behavior management specialist And that was to also, we cross-reference that with the school climate, because there's some different, when you see school climate referenced in here, it's referencing the school climate portion of the school report card. Because there's some overlapping indicators on there. And so we wanted to make sure we had a proactive approach to address those things. And then it talks about the family and community information sessions. And it talks about school improvement council, parent advisory groups, our ecumenical partners and other community forums to inform stakeholders of support, including our behavioral system. So you'll see a lot of those. Additionally, guys, when parents register, some of the information about discipline and other things are going to be included in that information when parents sign up. And then the last group that we engaged about this was with our school counseling departments. Each of those play a part in the process of school discipline. Oftentimes when we think about school level discipline, we just consider, a lot of times you think of a dean or an assistant principal, but there's really a collective team that goes out and addresses those. The next things that you'll see on there, these are actual artifacts. So I wanted to embed the artifacts within each one so that when you were referring back, or as you guys come back, and I know you can read through all this information, this is an actual presentation. I'm not going to go through each part of the presentation, but this is an actual presentation that was given to principals. And so you can see the information that is there. And it aligns to, it's just kind of, as she's scrolling through those, I'll actually tell her where she will scroll through that as you're flipping until we get to 13.2. And this is just a presentation talking about the TSS framework. It also, I will show, there is a slide on here I want to refer you to. It's next to last. It's number 23. On here, it shows, it was just an example of where principals could fill out a link to request additional assistance if they needed help with their MTSS process. So it's just giving you artifacts to support the claims that we just made for 13.1. Yeah, you just keep going. Yeah. So when we have to do, just so you're aware, we take the binder, scan them into PDF. So the numbering up there will be a little bit different than it's in your book. And that's the only way we could do a binder like this to be able to. So y'all almost caught up. The form I was referencing was the Student Services Request Assistance form. We have a little bit of different model for that this year, but this was something presented to the principals last year. If they needed additional assistance after we do presentations, they could sign up for it in the moment while they were thinking about it. Keep going to now. So now we'll go to 13.2. So now you're actually going to flip with me to the next tab in your binder. And that's 13.2 inform stakeholders. So like a good teacher, I'll look around and make sure everybody's caught up. All right. So there you see the different listed. This is more about the trainings that we do and how we've taught and reinforced that, especially annually, we're going to have updates to our discipline matrix. Sometimes that's because the state will change their code or a South Carolina law will change. And so as those laws change, we have to update our discipline matrix. And that's one of the reasons you guys will get an annual presentation on OE13 so that you guys will be made aware of any changes that we have to go through and highlight in here. Sometimes it is just a change in the coding system that the state uses. So this is how we communicate those, including we have to update our website in different places. This is another area how we demonstrate how we're informing all of our stakeholders of these changes. Okay. So that's the only slide in this one for 13.2. These are different tools and different artifacts to show how we use this information. And there's a presentation in here. It also shows, I want you to flip with me to where we get to a part, keep scrolling down where it says Educator's Handbook. The first part's talking about the MTSS portion of it to include Magic School, which is an AI tool that principals can use to develop different modules for students. I wanted to highlight the So if you're with me on this right here, this, where it says Educator's Handbook. Yep. So Educator's Handbook is our system for writing office referrals, both what we consider called major or minor referrals. So this is a training showing new administrators how to not only log into the system, they can see in real time each principal and assistant principal that has access to it. They don't just see the office referrals, they can see real time the data trends at their site. So every school administrator has that. And it's going to have information that you're going to see later on when you talk about discipline data. It'll show them the day of the week, the class period, the time of day. It will show all their different offenses that are occurring in their school. And this is a presentation showing newer administrators how to not only log in, but to sort their data if they want to pull and export that data. Say a principal wanted to present that data to their staff. This shows them how to pull and inform people of their discipline data trends at their school. Okay. So now we will go to 13.3. So we'll flip to our next tab, and I will, Robin scrolling as fast as she can to get this stuff, but I'll give wait time to do that. All right. So 13.3, you're going to see a couple other slides in here. So I'll go a little bit slower. This is where we're actually going to, can you say at the beginning of 13? Yep. So this is the one, I'll go a little bit slower through this first part because there's going to be some actual data presented in here. And this talks about the guided action. So we have this is consistent enforcement of discipline policies. So this will outline how the matrix is designed. So it's guided administrator actions. So that is where we have the different tiers within the different tiers or levels within the discipline matrix. And then it also shows the second point on there. It shows what I'm referring to. The infractions are categorized in levels 1, 2, and 3. Here's an important point that I want to make because this was reported on the last couple of years, but I want to make sure that point is emphasized. There are 3 levels in the discipline matrix. That was a change the state made a couple of years ago. There used to be 4 levels than that. They updated that, so we had to update our discipline matrix a couple of years ago to reflect that change. So the state defines with us what falls within certain levels. We do have some flexibility in there to replicate some things in different, like similar offenses in different levels. Also, the discipline matrix is broken down for elementary. There's one for middle school and one for high school. So that is important to understand because we do have 2 pre-K through 8s in our district. So if a pre-K through 8 student had a disciplinary infraction and they were in 6th grade, they would fall to the middle level matrix. If they were a pre-K through 5 student, even within the same school, they would fall to the elementary matrix. Okay. Now, the administrative regulations that you see there, these are you're going to see reference to several administrative regulations in this document. The way I did it for you is that SS 16, 19, 39, and 40 are going to be listed here. They're actually physically going to be printed in this tab. Later on in this presentation, you will see me reference these ARs again, but additional ARs. I did not reprint the same ARs for the different sections. Okay. So that's the only time that you may have to flip back and forth. But I just did that so that when I reference the next set of ARs, I only include the new AR that's not a new AR, but the additional AR that I didn't reference here. Okay. So those ARs are in the evidence part. Ms. Robin, after we get through these couple slides, she's going to have a lot of scrolling to do to get us caught back up. The next slide is what I go that the committee often want to look at. So I will walk you through what these presentations are. All right, I'm going to stop at go a little bit above that. I want you to see this. Oftentimes, we operate on a fiscal year, and I know I'm saying that as I know you guys are aware of that. But what I want to draw attention to at the header of some of these slides to make it consistent, when I refer to school year 23, that means the 22-23 school year. If I refer to school year 24, that's the 23-24 school year. So the last number of the year when we refer to school year is what we're referencing. Okay. So there are 3 different columns there for you to look at. Starting on our left on the slide, the discipline column, that is school year 22-23. You see the same thing for 23-24 in the middle, and all the way on the right was last school year 24-25. Now I'm gonna on this, you don't have to scroll yet, but on the subsequent slides, after we provide the data, then we'll list out some trends that were there for you to see. So it is there for you to reference there. So a couple of different things that we have. When we say office referrals, there are 2 types of referrals that a teacher or a school staff can write to document a behavior of a student. There are minor referrals, and then what is referred to 2 ways. It's either an office referral or a major referral. We have a warehouse system called Educator's Handbook that we put it in. That's not what the state pulls. The state actually pulls from what we call PowerSchool. PowerSchool is our student information system. So this data we actually pulled from Educator's Handbook and PowerSchool. That's cross-referenced to verify the accuracy of it. It's because the state reporting system is PowerSchool. We enter information in there. So what happens is Educator's Handbook uploads nightly into PowerSchool so that the data should always reflect. And we have to do verification reports monthly to ensure that the data in Educator's Handbook matches the data in PowerSchool. Okay. So the different areas that are there. So it shows the total office referrals. And we also will show enrollment at the top for that school year, the total office referrals, the number of students with referrals, and then it will show these top 4 actions are actions. So that means once a referral was written and a school administrator was processing it, this shows the top action taken by each school administrator from year to year as they were processing. Also, you will see that the top 3 grades are listed and it's consistent each year. Another thing I will highlight out and we'll show the trends. If you look and you'll see the day most referrals are written, it stays exactly the same in the same order from 3 years in a row. And that's Wednesday, then Tuesday, then Thursday. It's just interesting when you really dig down into that many referrals and you start to figure out where and how, and even to include the different types of actions that were taken. All right, so the next line is our office data trends. Now, some of these are written small. I am going to go through each one of these. I know that there are several on here, but we wanted to make sure that with that much information, we started showing you trends. So there was an overall increase in total office referrals from 23 to 25. However, I want to state this. That's not necessarily, that doesn't mean that behavior increased during that time. Because I'll show you some other documents there. That means we're doing a better job of documenting what was occurring. So we could also it's not just about the discipline side, it's about the intervention side that the kid is receiving. Also, we began to document truancy within Educator's Handbook and PowerSchool through the discipline side, so that when we're documenting those things, while you see an overall increase in total office referrals, you'll see in here how some of that goes to provide additional support, but that's just a house for documenting what was occurring. All right. The second point is what we will this is a very positive thing. We have seen over the last 3 years, a steady decline in what we call high severity referrals. So in parentheses, you're going to see what we considered for this presentation a high severity referral. That will be your fighting and assault, bullying and harassment, tobacco, alcohol, and drug related. Now, when we say these things in here, we're using the state's legal definition of those actions. So when a referral is written, the administrator has to do an investigation and they determine if where that falls meets that definition. That's part of their involvement in that. And we'll show some additional information on here when you start to see there's more data to support these things. Increased teacher initiated intervention. You're going to see that, and that is due to our emphasis on the MTSS process. And the referral process, guys, when it's on there, part of the action they have to take, some of the actions is to refer the student to the MTSS team that I referenced earlier. So that may be an outcome of a disciplinary infraction that a kid has. Then the next one is in-school suspension assignments assignments percentage had a slight increase. Some of these are going to be done by percentage because if you look at the overall number of students we have in the district, we have to look at if you're going to compare year to year, if the overall number of students change from year to year, we're looking at the overall percentage of assignment. And so if they had a slight increase, we'll say that. If it's slightly lower, we'll say that. And we'll kind of reference what we mean by slightly here in a little bit. It was a push as a system to try to opt for when appropriate to do in-school suspension in lieu of out-of-school suspension, because we still can, even though that child might be removed from a general classroom setting, we're still able to provide additional supports to those students. We want the accountability for the infraction, but we still can provide some supports for the student while they're in a not necessarily their traditional learning environment, but they're still in a learning environment. And then that just to remain consistent, you'll see the out of school suspensions remain stable or slightly lower. And that was aligned with our goals that you see listed out there. The next one is a rise in documentation of lower level behaviors, cell phones, truancy, or any level of disruption. We have to document the lower level behaviors in Educator's Handbook. That is the referral system in order to enact our MTSS support system. If we don't document the behavior, then we can't go and provide the intervention. So that system is set up to do it that way. Okay. And then referral distribution by grade level. This is something I referred to earlier. And day of the week remain consistent. That's just showing overall patterns are stable in some of those areas. And then improve communication with families. You'll see that through the documentation of the communication with families to include documented parent logs, conferences, and reentry meetings following ISS and OSS. One of the things that Educators Handbook, the reason that school districts use systems like Educators Handbook, it has a lot of form templates in there based on the disciplinary infraction that schools can use to help explain a process to a family. And we do have those forms in Educators Handbook available, not just in English, but in a variety of languages for our families. Okay. The next one is office referral comparison by student. This to me probably is one of the most important slides you're going to see in this entire presentation. And I want to show the why. So I'm going to start with the left because even when I was running through this and looking at it, I had to say it out loud a couple of times to myself and to a couple others I was practicing with, so I understood it. Okay. The first column, the number of students that had one referral. And you can see that number from the 3 different school years. The second column is students that have 2 to 4 referrals. And you can see that trend through school years. The last one's probably the most important one. The column with students that had 5 or more referrals. Okay. So when you see that, you get a total number of students in there that had referrals. So we gave you a referral count by year. This breaks it down to if you go all school year long, you got 1 office referral, you're in that first column. You got between 2 and 4, you're in the second column. You got 5 or more, you're in the last column. Then we go over percentage by referral. Okay. So here is here's another way to explain it, and I'm going to go all the way to the right side. And essentially, 22% of our students are the 22% are the ones that are occurring the 5 or more referrals. That means that 78% of our students have 4 referrals or less, and then you can continue to do the numbers the other way. And so that shows that percentage. However, if you look at the percentage on the right-hand side, okay, this is by percentage, that number is declining over time. The 5 or more referrals, that's where your MTSS systems will kick into place. That's where these are the repetitive discipline. That's what it's referring to, and it shows the overall this speaks to when that percentage is declining over time. That's the evidence you look for to validate are your MTSS systems working? And so that shows a pattern over the years. So that's something that we are always going to monitor as a validation point. The next slide is additional trends. Nearly half, 47% of students so of the students that were written up, here's another way to explain it. 47% of the students that were written up last year had 1 referral. Okay. That's another way, and that's up from 43%, showing improved tier 1 prevention and consistency in handling first-time behaviors. Okay. So that means that, and I'll use Mr. Copeland as an example, right? He gets 1 referral. He gets 1 referral. That call to the parent or whatever action was taken is showing that it is effective for him not to continue that behavior to go into these other tiers. This also, the next point breaks down.
Stratos and tiers.
Yes. Now we're talking about Dr. Stratos. She had 5 or more referrals in 2023. But we've been working hard with Dr. Stratos. That we've confirmed that our tier 2 and our tier 3 interventions. So this year, Dr. Stratos 2025, she did not get 5 or more referrals. So that's where you're seeing.
Get right choices.
Well, we have a variety of interventions and some are more effective than others. So that's why I highlighted the importance of that slide. That's why we did a separate data trend from that slide. The total students with referrals, you will see an increase. Don't forget that increase also includes the new state policy on cell phones. So we have to document each of those incidents in cell phones. So you're going to see that in there. And we also wanted to highlight, we did put some things in bold in there, and it references the act that mandated that in South Carolina. So you're going to see some of that. Remember this last part, don't look at the increase in office referrals to look at it as the indicator of behavior or climate. We have different metrics to measure behavior and in climate. So in climate, we have the school report card survey. We have all those things to measure climate. We also, with behavior, you want to look back at your infraction kind of data that I went through, the severity to measure those things. The office referral system is more of a system to house it. Guys, I know I slowed down to go through that part, but I wanted to make sure we had a real clear understanding of the discipline data. The next one is going to further.
Can I interject a question?
Yes, sir.
Just because I'm trying to wrap my head around it.
Mhm.
What would be, other than cell phone, what
Mhm.
would be an example of a kid being written up for a minor fraction?
So a minor infraction, I want to go back to that. So a minor infraction, first of all, that's handled at the classroom level. So minor infraction doesn't go beyond to a school level administrator to handle. They can see it in the event that they need to ask them to see their school counselor, or maybe they're just going to. So you were talking too much in class today, and I talked to you 2 or 3 times. I'm going to call your parent. That's where they document that they called your parent to talk to you about you going in class, okay?
But it doesn't necessarily mean there was a referral.
Correct.
And
The
that's-
minor part means that there was no referral.
on track.
That's-
Where are we counting?
Yeah, when does that referral?
Count.
So there's a progression to it. That's why we have what's called a progressive discipline plan. So after, it depends on the type of behavior. There are some behaviors that go straight to an office referral, okay? But the minor, like classroom type, like for example, talking too much in class.
Chewing gum.
Yes. So let's say that Dr. Lee is talking too much in class, okay? The first time I talk to her, I may say, hey, listen, I'll pull you outside, knock it off. It's interrupting instruction. This is what we do. They have the progressive discipline plan guides our teachers. When we say guided action, it's also important for the teacher to understand that the first time they have to talk to you, they have to talk to Dr. Lee about talking in class. They don't have to go write them an office referral for an administrator to come in and get it. Gives the teachers some flexibility to intervene in the classroom.
Is that noted anywhere?
Yes.
Yes.
That's noted in the minor office referral. What we are looking at and really going through here are our office referrals. The reason that's clear distinction, the office referrals are processed by an administrator. That does go on to a student's discipline record. Okay, so the goal is to start with the minor referrals to provide intervention to try to prevent the office referral. Is that
Yeah, Dr. Cox, would it be clear to say those are the referrals or the teacher classroom management?
classroom managed behaviors?
As you put forward that administrative
Down the hall.
parking ticket, speeding ticket.
That's actually a good analogy. Law enforcement pulls you over for speeding, they can write you a warning. Another way to look at it as those classroom management referrals, those are your warnings. Essentially. I'm good to progress?
Yes.
All right, the next slide shows some of our major incidents I want to highlight you to. You're going to see a hyphen in between fighting / assault, bullying / harassment, and drugs, tobacco, and alcohol. The reason they're grouped that way is that's how the state will group those categories. And depending on the level of investigation of the administrator, one may fall into one category versus the other based on the legal definition given by the state. Okay. You can see not just the raw number of incidents that occurred during that time and decline. On the right-hand column shows the percent change in those actions over the last 3 years. And so when you're measuring discipline data, that's why I talked about not the office referrals. These are the types of things that I would refer you to that we monitor to look at trends over time. Okay. On the other side, the things that are an increase in behavior that we've seen over the last few years. Because we want to show you both. If we're having a decline in one area, we want to show that. However, if we're having an increase in that area, we want to be transparent and show you our data as well. The first one should not be a shock to you. Now, in 23-24, you had 323. And in 24-25, you had 2,023. And that is going to be a 526.3% increase since 23-24. Well, there's a reason why, and that's because one, the law went into place and new codes went into place. Historically, if you had a cell phone in school and you were having an issue with the school before this law, that would go under like a refusal to obey. So the teacher would ask for your phone. You didn't want to give up your phone. That would go into a refusal to obey. The new way in 24-25, there's a phone violation code in there that schools will do. So it's a more accurate reporting metric for that. The other is you'll see truancy with cutting. I'm really going to refer you to truancy. And this is because we began to document working with the state, not just our district, but districts all over. That's where we document truancy for a student. So historically, it's been documented in a variety of places for districts. This is where we have been documenting that and adding tighter documentation. We have systems in place for if a student after the third absence, we have different things kick into place, and as their absences increase, those things kick into place. So that's increased. That is a little bit misleading. That doesn't mean that necessarily based on that number that truancy or cutting has increased. That means the volume of documentation we've put in there has increased over the last couple.
This past summer,
Yes.
we set the memorandum for that qualifier.
Right. And these are the trends that we talked about. You'll see, I'm not gonna go through each one at the same level of doing, because I really just went and explained some of those. But it does list out the different things that we're using within each one to try. It gives a little further explanation of each level, and it shows like the implementation and different things that we've tried to do to prevent those things. Those things the declines didn't just occur by chance. We put interventions in place to really target those things to try to improve our overall school environment. Okay. And again, we're highlighting, this is the second year, I referenced this earlier, as the discipline matrix changed. You'll see this. This is something that we did as a system. We had the flexibility. The state gives us a frame. We have the flexibility to make some adjustments within the matrix. So you'll see that change in 22-23, and that how the change was embedded from 23-24 and 24-25. So the two areas we made changes to as a system were simple assault and drug-related offenses. There's two more you're going to see on the background that follow on the next slide that follow suit. The other two that had changes in severity were the major disruption and fighting. Okay. I do want to point, I am going to flip back, but you don't have to. The reason you have assault simple and fighting separated is because we followed the state definition for those two things. So they're actually separated out. An assault and a fight are two different things as legally defined by the state. And so both of which were violent offenses, and so their infraction level increased. So as you're looking at fighting, I will show up there. It just shows a more severe consequence for those actions. That was the major change that you saw over the last 2 years in our school.
What would a first offense for fighting typically result in?
So you're going to have different factors on there. So to answer that question, first you have to look at it by elementary, middle, and high, number one. And number two, you're going to have to look at what we call aggravating and mitigating circumstances. So that is a difficult question to answer because it is a scale. So the easiest example for me to give to show why that would be a scale, if two students get into a fight in a classroom, there may be disruption to that classroom, but there may not be disruption school-wide. Two students get into a fight at lunch in front of everyone, that causes substantial disruption to this. Or there could have been intervention like with the students prior to that, and they fought anyway. Or I might be standing right beside you as an adult, and no matter what we tried, you still fought. So all those are mitigating and aggravating circumstances. I do really work hard to answer specific questions like that.
That's helpful because trying to get a handle on the big picture.
Yes, sir. Okay. And then the last one, this is where she's going to start to scroll. Okay. So there are a variety of documents in here. There are quite a few that you can refer back to. So as she's scrolling, I'm just going to summarize those. These are the first little one is some documentation that we have in here of where students are referred to alternative placement. There's a presentation in here that shows how we document and deal with school bus violations that are there. I don't expect you to keep up with me on these, and all the administrative regulations that were referenced for that area are all printed out here for you. So that when you go back through this, all the supporting documentation for those ARs are going to be in that one. So it's going to take a second for her to catch up with us. The next one is going to be 13.4, informing the board. So as you're flipping through those, I'll wait on her to catch up with us. Then we'll go to our next tab. I know there's a lot of information in there, but I wanted you to have all the stuff that we referenced. Why she's doing so. Yeah, there we go. All right. When we upload these documents so that they can see again, the PDFs are so large, we had to do two separate ones.
They're
Right.
in there in part 1 and 2, and then there is a link in there as well for the whole thing. So.
So now we're talking about 13.4, which is informing the board. This is what I referenced earlier. If I have already provided you evidence of the administrative regulation previously, I did not reprint that here. This might be the only area that's there. This is how we, in addition to presenting OE 13, this is how we keep the board informed of these discipline changes. So these are the ARs that were either presented to the board or made aware of that were involving school level discipline. So you'll see, and I am going to read these. SS16 is disciplining students with disabilities. We have to have a separate AR for those to keep us compliant, but not just state or federal law. So that's why you will see some different ARs involving discipline. It is not a one size fits all thing. Our code of conduct is there, and that's what I refer to as a progressive discipline plan. Student conduct on buses in the previous one, you saw how when we update our ARs, we also have to go inform our school staff of those things. So you'll see that in there. 39 is the guidance for suspension, expulsion, and alternative placement. 39 and 40 go together. 39 and 40 are paired together because that is a re-entry process for students. So what that means is for SS 39, it shows how a student is either suspended, expelled, or referred to alternative placement. 40 is what happens after that has concluded. Okay. So they're done in a progression that way. That includes students that enroll with us from other systems that have been expelled or an alternative placement. That is an important thing for you guys to notate and look at when you're looking at those ARs. So these do apply. So say a student moves here from another state, if they were under expulsion from that other state, we have to have ARs in place because those expulsions or those alternative placements will follow them. So we have to have a process in place for reentry when that occurs. And so that's what these ARs do. There's only one slide in this one, but behind the slide are the additional AR, and that is SS 18, the progressive discipline plan. So there's not as much scrolling for her to do. All right. We're getting there, guys. We're getting there. Just bear with me. All right. Now we are on to 13.5 when she catches up. Yep. So 13.5 are the policy guidelines. And this is where we have to show that we've documented and filled those. And this is where in here we're going to talk about the parent notification for like hearings and intervention, checklist to include parent notification, where we monitored our student discipline data, and then providing ongoing PD for our discipline practice. Or when we do PD for our discipline practice, we do those in different tiers and different levels. So you're going to get that at the school administrator level, including principals and assistant principals. But then when we talk about our different levels to include our classroom teachers and folks like our behavior management folks that are helping provide intervention to our students. You're going to see hearing discipline data in this area. So again, to remain consistent in the presentation, after we show you the actual data, the next slide will be going to the trend data. So after you look at that data in there, this is 23-24 and 24-25. And it shows you the different types of, so the first column up here is alternative placement. That means that leaving whatever discipline occurred at the school, the principal recommended alternative placement. The bottom column is when the principal recommended expulsion. So those are two different types of discipline hearings that students may have. So then it shows on the right side, the hearing decision. If they were referred to alternative placement, it shows the outcome of what occurred. And then with the expulsion, it does the same thing. They were referred to that and it shows the outcome. And then you can see a comparison from year to year. In the next slide, I will go through the trends. Because I know the font is a little small there, but we want to fit it on one slide. From 23 to 24, the total district level hearings declined by nearly 50%. That is a very strong indicator that your tier 1 and your tier 2 interventions are working. It talks about the restorative and instructional approaches that are there. And then we have some different points down there to showing a shift from more punitive actions to structured supportive responses. A decrease in expulsion. That's a 57% decrease in expulsion. Improve fidelity in decision making. The IEP and 504 teams for students with disabilities have a role in this process. So it showed how the actions that they were taking, if they were effective or not, were students. It also shows a safer, more supportive school environment. Those are indicators you look for when you're looking at those things. And then after that, it's just a more detailed and a different way. The font, I wanted the font a little bigger for you so you could see the tables and data we pulled for the discipline data that was there to build the comparison from one to the next. It's the same type. It's a further documentation of the first data slide I showed you, but it's just a little bit bigger and you can see the font a little bit better. Now we're on to 13.6, consistency across schools. And that's where we talk about the tiered interventions and consequences for infractions. That's why we talk about the different levels, and that's why we build the discipline matrices. Here's the difficult part to your question earlier. You want to have consistency. However, each individual disciplinary action has to be reviewed. Students have to be given their due process and their mitigating and aggravating circumstances. So we build our process in place and try to frame that as best as possible. And then the different levels of the matrix are broken out to be age appropriate for the students. Mm-hmm.
I think one of the things that you did as well at your work was the principal teams who worked with the discipline matrix would define that. As a result, that's the decline because that action at the elementary you felt was not the same as the secondary, and you put different teams together to redefine and do that work a little deeper as a system.
Yeah, so when we referenced that earlier, we don't just ask the principals for feedback on the discipline matrix. We actually talk to them and go through and look at what consequences are working. Where do we need to increase consequences? Where does this not fit in the right level where we have flexibility? Sometimes we don't have flexibility. Sometimes with some of these infractions, they are in level 1, 2, or 3 as defined by the state. For some of the discipline codes, we have a little bit of flexibility of where we're going to place those in our discipline matrix. An example of that would be like cutting class. Okay, that's an example of that, of where we can move that on our tiers. But listening to our principals, the ones that are carrying out this discipline, in addition to what the data is telling us, helps us do these things, especially someone like me who has a predominantly high school background, listening to our elementary principals and what they're seeing day to day. And making sure that it's age appropriate for them is very, very critical. Behind that is representing exactly what she is talking about. So these are the student services presentations. We have principal portfolio meetings. Portfolio meetings are done and led by the executive director by level. But what it is we have our principal meetings that we have in the district office, and that's for all principals together. The portfolio meetings are done with principals by level, so the middle and high principals will be together. And the elementary principals are kind of divided out, but we bring in other district staff in addition to the executive director to give a presentation. This is what this artifact is, and it shows how we work on these things with the principals. We provide data to them. So this is what this presentation, this is an example of one of the presentations they get to illustrate the point that Dr. Stratos was just making. And since we referenced our ARs there is AR, the one we hadn't presented yet, and that is IS 60. I know it's because it's considered an instructional program, so it's listed under IS, not SS, but it is printed there for you. And that if it's printed, that means we haven't reviewed it yet, or I hadn't referenced it yet previous to in this presentation. All right, last one, guys.
If it's printed as well now.
If it's printed here, that means I didn't reference it previously in one of the other 13.1 and 13.2. And 13.7, these are our interventions that we're doing. There's going to be a lot of supporting documentation in here. So we talked about the change in the discipline matrices to include different grade levels, early intervention, and the proactive support. And then the additional MTSS behavior curriculum that we have, it lists these things out to include, you are going to see, and I know folks are always curious to this, you would use AI to create modules for kids to go through if they're struggling with a particular thing. So you don't put Dr. Stratos is struggling with talking too much in class. You put a student who's talking too much in class, and it helps build a module for the kid, or maybe they don't understand. Maybe at that level or age, they don't understand that by me doing this in class, how it's impacting others. So that is just one of the things that I wanted to point out, and you'll see the others in there. The second slide going with that, STV at the top is a grant that we had. And those are the PSP expansion. PSP is a promising student program. It's for elementary age students, and is to provide behavioral support to students that are pre-K through 5, really K through 5, to do in there. What it does is it provides early intervention with just behavior, not only to prevent that discipline from increasing as they're going up. Many of our students you have to remember that we enroll students from all over the country. It was important for us to have a program like this, not just to support our existing students, but we will have students enroll with us that were in a program like that. And we had to have services available to match that when it's there. The acronym at the top, you'll see it says STV. That's because that's how the grant specifically, it's the Stop the Violence grant that we're participating in, and that helped fund our expansion of those programs. And it's really more of a therapeutic environment for K through 5 students. And then the core focus talks about that expansion, the therapeutic day program, that's referring to the PSP program, work on wellness, mental health access, family engagement, and evaluation and sustainability. Those are the core focuses or foci of the grant. I said that right, Dr. Stratos?
Smiling.
As you know, I was going to say focuses over.
Yeah.
we have to show sustainability.
Regulations work.
Yes, it is. It just shows how we have to have a plan in place to sustain these things when it's done. So there is a lot of documentation in this last area. And it goes through and highlights the different things that we're just talking about and the different partners we have to help us carry out these types of programs and to help us accomplish our goals. So there's a lot of in there. The only downside to doing the presentation this way does take us going slow through it and it takes a little longer, but I think when you refer back to these things, it's organized for you to be able to access quickly. The last slide is actually, I wanted you to be able to see our updated discipline matrix. I separated this out because I wanted to highlight it for you. This is an example of the beginning portion of our discipline matrix. It actually will show an infraction and then it will give the definition. We do not create these our own definitions. There are times though that we feel that there is a definition needed. And there have been times that actually the state has changed their definition and put it out statewide based on not our recommendation, but recommendations of other school districts across the country. So this is just an example of infraction and definition. And on the right-hand side, this is what we talked about for maintaining consistency. And it shows possible interventions or possible actions that can be taken for these types of infractions. I wanted to give you a real clear snapshot, just as an example of the different things that we talked about.
And Doug, yeah, to Dr. Carr, this is the teacher managed discipline.
This is the second reiteration of the discipline matrix since 2019.
Okay.
The district did not have an updated one from 2016. It got updated in 2019. And you, both of you early on pre-COVID, because that's when McKinsey first came to the board. The state did a second update and that has been updated. So if you remember going back to 2019, it was brought to as a board and it was updated again to actually I sat within the past, what, 5 years? now?
So in my previous role as the supervisor of the middle and high schools, I worked with not only myself, but the executive directors to lead this kind of on behalf of Dr. White at the time with the principals to get their involvement so that we could get the discipline matrix the best that we could.
I can say something as well. We've never had a briefing of this much comprehensive data. This is really good work. And this is something, you know, I've had, my youngest grandson had 3 referrals with suspension, so I'm kind of familiar with process. But when we were dealing with that, none of this was available. And my son, a lawyer, was just up, you know, he said, well, this is crazy. There's no background or background work, reference work that he could refer to. Now, this is really good stuff. Man, you know how it used to be.
I will agree that happens is nice. It narrows some things down, and now at the district level, I believe that this group should have the start of a universal playing ground in terms, not playing ground, say a universal. Well, that's not really what I'm looking for, as in terms of school based to district to school based, as if there's a stable place and everyone's playing under the same rules and everybody's under the same umbrella. And I think that this right here is what provide the district based versus the school based.
That's one of your elements in your OT is the consistency of practice.
Right.
And I think something got the concept significant to see is that the complexity of discipline has decreased. And that was a very strong highlight that you brought up as well. Because of the phone situation, but complexity is higher numbers of pay increase, which if you state shows the emphasis is working.
I also think that I would say two things. The one, I was a little concerned of how long it was, but I wanted to give a OE 13 with discipline. It is an important topic because of this last slide. We want to hit our 75, 75, 92 goal. This has to be part of that. Every division, every person, all hands on deck to occur to that. And as far as the presentation itself, I have a very demanding supervisor that I had to present this to on numerous times. So if all information was not included, it was far more comprehensive. It's not just my fault. I had to present it to her on numerous occasions to have all this comprehensive information. So and I will also say Ms. McKenzie helped with the structure of where to put these things. So I give her credit for that. So I hope that it was informative for you.
Give this to every board member.
Yes, sir. We made a copy, we made
Because-
12 binders of this.
I'm gonna take this because I get calls all the time from parents about Johnny did this or Sally did that. Now I got something that I can,
So we do have copies for not just the folks that were here today, but we went ahead and made copies for everyone. So you would have that.
The binder that you have today, you need to take with you.
Yeah, you wanna,
Not get another.
because you don't wanna carry.
He will take with you.
Cool. And how they utilize that instruction for the development of faculty to help students late.
Mhm.
And I think that's a very strong component that came out of this presentation and very unique.
The goal is self-regulation, being able to teach and train kids at a young age to self-regulate before conflict occurs. And that's not just conflict with their peers, it can be conflict with adults, people in positions of authority. And so that is extremely important. So as we conclude OE 13, are there any other questions or anything else I can?
Oh, well, I did have, in terms of the, in terms of behavioral, the BMSs, how do we intertwine them? I know we talked about in terms of the teachers having the course of in the class referrals, as we would say, but how do we entwine them to empower them to have a monitoring system too, and how do they take out? Because I'm sure at some point in time that I see where they will get passed off kids and say, hey, this kid is doing this. How are they involved in this?
Oh, that's a great question. So
Of course.
in here, you will see some of the trainings that the BMS has specifically received. In addition to that, what has really strengthened over the past couple of years, and Dr. Skaggs works directly with the BMS personnel within our different sites, is in order to be on a BMS caseload, the school out now has to go through a process. That doesn't mean a teacher can't ask or go to the administration and say, hey, I need help with this student or this classroom. But we now have what's called a caseload that each BMS has to carry. And so that means that the student has had regular issues or problems. And now the BMS is working with not just that student, but sometimes groups of students. So sometimes they have to provide documentation on their caseload.
In the MTSS process.
Right. So that's part of the multi-tiered systems of support that we talked about. BMS and their level of intervention is documented through the MTSS process. So once they're on their caseload, that means that they're in the MTSS process in order to be on the BMS caseload. It doesn't mean they can't help other students that are outside of that caseload. That means that they have to meet with either individually or in small groups or provide interventions or observations of that kid on a regular basis. And they have to go back into whatever system we have defined for them, or their school level or district level systems. And they have to provide updates and documentation on what is the progress like of that student. And so we're trying to have a stronger system in place before it gets to that level of alternative placement. Those things need to be done before they're referred to alternative placement. unless it falls into one of your more severe categories that we have listed in our matrices. But for our regular day-to-day types of stuff, that's where our BMS are making a big time impact.
That's what I was just getting ready to say. Our BMSs, the reason why we're seeing our interventions work and our number of referrals going down or the percentage going down, it's the work of the BMS, and Dr. Skaggs plays a huge part of that.
Yeah.
He's very involved with our students that are struggling or.
So it's not there before.
And that has all the documentation, so we can keep track of it when a student starts to have issues, all of the things that the school has done, the BMS has done, so we can keep track of that, so that we can hopefully deter future incidents with that
And-
student.
Also, a couple of years ago, Dr. Rodriguez worked with the system to put some community BMSs in place. And that means that if they can float to different schools for a couple of reasons, if something's going on and we need to provide additional support, they can grow to that area. Also, if a BMS is out at a school site, that BMS can come in and cover so that school doesn't go without support during that time. And so we've actually furthered the documentation process. That's what schools now can put in requests to have that additional BMS. And so Dr. Skaggs built a schedule for that BMS. It may be that additional BMS splits between two schools from AM to PM. And then we measure, was that additional support effective during that time frame? And sometimes we have to pull and then say if someone has to go out for surgery at school A and they only have, they're assigned one BMS. We may pull that community BMS to cover that school so that school doesn't go without support during that time.
It also closely monitors your data points. That was not a system that happened. Right, it's been close to government institutions.
Also, I noticed that, when we went in here, we talked about the amount of referrals and the, from year to year. Now, so once a student information goes into the database upon the referrals, can the next year teacher see and all of them have access to how much referrals a kid prior to that year received?
So the short answer is it depends. Short answer is it depends. So we have to make sure that we protect certain things from year to year. So certain eyes can only see certain things. So there are systems in place to work from, especially if they're going, say, 5th grade to 6th grade, they can see some of the incidents in there. They may not be able to see the collective whole of everything, but yes, there are processes in place to not just, I will tell you the big one that we've had to strengthen to your question. The big one is when they go from school to school, not just from grade level to grade level. So it is stronger from grade level to grade level of that transition where we've put a lot of work in and trying to create district-wide systems. And so if a student is leaving school A, going to school B, strengthening that collaboration between the schools of letting them know that, hey, this is what's going on. This is why this kid is moving, but you need to be aware of these things that we've been doing and the supports we've had in place so that there's a continuity. So if that student was, say, in a tier 2 or MTSS, we started here, these interventions weren't effective, so we moved into tier 2. But that student moves from your school to your school, with tier 2 at your school, we want to ensure that they enter with the tier 2 supports at the next school. So that has been a gap in the past that we've really had to work hard on.
Branching minds.
And so we have a system now that we've brought in place called Branching Minds, and that's something that Ms. Sackman, who's now in ISD, is working more across the system so that we can have a stronger documentation. So when a child leaves from one school to the other, they can see more of the interventions and strategies that we put in place for them so that there can be continuity in that.
Any other questions? Is there any questions online? Ms. Frazier?
No, sir. No questions.
Thank you. Ms. Gordon?
Do you have them in for academic committee for your OE?
Oh, never done that before. You're gonna help me with that.
Leah has one.
Does she have it now?
Did I have it linked to the contingent? She said yes. She can go ahead and make it if she's ready.
Leah, you can make that motion for the academic committee, for number 2.
Number 2? Okay.
Number 2.
Oh.
That's why I.
Oh,
It's not number 2, but I just motioned her to go to consent agenda.
consent agenda.
Yes.
Got it.
Okay. I would like to make the motion to place this OE 13 on a consent agenda.
I will second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I think we can move to next item on the agenda. The ARs.
So
Is you again?
it's me again. Me again. I know. We're gonna go faster this time, I promise. All right, so we have 4 ARs out of student services. In full transparency, the minute that I finish SS 34, going through that, you're gonna see me jump up and sprint to that door because my son is playing tonight at Bishop England and I want to get to his game. So I'm gonna be running to that. So SS 30, just like as you have all of the ARs, you're gonna have 3 sets of each. And I'll highlight that and then we'll get rolling. So the first for SS 30 that I will point you to, there are 4 different ones there, each of them are a different way. Those are executive summaries. That's what I will speak from today. And it's going to show the changes that you were made. You also have what's called a red line version, although some of the lines are blue. It's a red line version. That shows what we changed it for from the previous time. And then you have a clean version. So you're going to have that for each of these. Okay. So for SS 30, you're going to SS 30 or student concerns, complaints, and grievances. You're going to see the different sections on there. Section 1 and 2 are going to be consistent in all of our ARs as we update them. And that is going to be something that as we update all ARs in the future that we anytime we do those and bring it for you, you're going to see that. In section 3, we just changed the wording to make it a little more coherent in there. And we do have our legal department review all of these to make sure that they are compliant with South Carolina law. That I said that to reference sections 4 and 5. Section 4 and 5, we put lines specifically in there referencing Title IX complaints and how those would be followed to include sexual harassment and discrimination, and then the equal opportunity and non-discrimination clause outlined in section 4. And then in section 5, we had to do another legal amendment to revise the section to specifically address section 504. And it addresses the 504. We have a 504 handbook and general information. Wanted to reference those things there. So that is SS 30. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Other questions?
All right, SS 32. All right, same format. This is student initiated, non-school sponsored extra class activities. So again, sections 1 and 2 are going to be the same updates you're going to see in all AR. Section 3, it's referencing they had to remove a sentence and remove sections, subsection A and B. Those had to be amended because of what we revised in section 6. So when you add the way that some of the previous ARs were written, when you do some of the updates that we're doing to all the ARs, the non-discrimination clause and the superintendent expectation, that prompts us to have to revise the language in some of the other areas. The only one I would really point to that's outside of that is in section 4, we expanded the definition of student any initiated, the definition of student initiated, and provide some clarifying language there. And so that AR has all the, and it shows on the right hand, again, if you want to see all the striking out and we had to do, that's in the red line version that we provided. So that is SS 32.
So the general statement of policy is actually 3.
Correct.
Not 4. On the strike. Correct here.
Correct. So when we added some of those in, it has like a chain reaction of update. Yep. Any questions on 32? I hear there are. All right, so now we're on to 33. And this is student fundraising activities. Also, I think it's important to note that when we do these administrative regulation changes, even though it says student services at the top, other departments and divisions sit and go through these. So like, I bring that up because this is a fundraising thing. So people from Ms. Crosby's team will sit with us and go through the revision process. So we start with that process, then it goes through our legal department to review as well and update, and all that occurs before it comes to you guys. So you'll see the red line version, the clean version. The first 2 areas, again, remain consistent. Section 3, we just updated some language to replace campaigns with activities that can be confusing. And we changed some of the wording around to be a little more coherent. Section 4 is kind of what you referred to earlier. It changes the section number. And section 7, 8, and 9, those are just different updates we made to include when finance added some additional procedures in different parts of the system, we wanted to reference those in here.
Finance added those some different things because of state or because they thought that it needed to be in there.
It's gonna be both, like,
They'll be aligned with their own internal policy for auditing procedures. So they have their own finance manual that is looked at for auditing purpose. So it's state and finance. I don't want to use policy, but procedures, because it makes
but
procedure.
when they would put a procedural manual out or change procedural, kind of like when I referenced a change in one of the earlier ARs, when we developed a 504 handbook or guidebook, we have to go back and update the AR to reference that. And so when a different department or different division does something that's going to impact one of these things, we have to come back and update the AR to reflect that new policy or procedure would exist. Okay. Any other questions on 33? Now we're moving. All right. Last one for student services is SS 34. Again, finance participated in this. SS 34 is about student activities funds. And you're going to see the section over the left, section 1 and 2, same thing as we previously stated. Section 3, it talks about it refers back to that manual again, which changes, the prompted changes in section 3. And then section 4 was also done to it refers to the annual audit that was done during that time. And there were no changes to section 5. And the code of laws are updated on all these at the bottom as well. So that is all of the student services. Fine. I'm done. Well, we're not done with the meeting, but I'm done.
Dr. Cox, thank you.
You guys.
Thank you. Travel safe.
So with that, board members, we're going to transition as the OE has been approved to go to consent agenda. I'm going to turn the floor over to our administrative regulations updates. I have Ms. Gilbert here, who actually for IS 20.
By the way, before Dr. Cox leaves, you're a hard act to follow.
20.1 and 20.2, all within our career technical education. I would please like if I could draw your attention to Ms. Gilbert, who's going to walk you through. I want to make note as well that this is followed through a process that you're familiar with, and Ms. McKinsey has been our facilitator to make sure that we meet the expectations that's set forward by this committee. Ms. Gilbert, thank you.
Dr. Strange. So good evening, board members and online. Again, thank you for the opportunity to come back before you. All three of these ARs that we have updated for your review are all related to work-based learning. Work-based learning, per the state definition, it can be as informal as a 1 or 2 day job shadowing that our students participate in, all the way to a formal internship where a student can receive a credit, and it can also count toward our career readiness accountability model. So we will, as Dr. Cox said, we do have a state work-based learning manual, procedural manual that we use to reference. And so we'll start with the first one. And again, the same process of if we can follow the executive summary, and you have the copy that's in the red line, and then the final copy, clean copy. Shout out to my colleague, Ms. Kenzie, because she has really helped us streamline this process. So the three are divided up into, you think, why wouldn't we just combine them all? But one is, how are we helping young people to transition to gain information about the world of work? It's called Career Transition to Work Education. Okay. The second one is, if an employer has a job and they want to do solicitation of that job, what does that entail? And then the third one is the overall, how do we manage the procedures with work-based learning guidelines? So with this first one, as Dr. Cox mentioned, Mrs. Cartledge and Ms. Middleton, her team wanted to add in verbiage in all sections. For section 1, we just added where the superintendent shall establish per the superintendent's expectation. So section 1 for all three just added that verbiage. And then section 2 for all three just added the non-discrimination statement, because we had not had that on our earlier AR. So we'll appreciate that. So I'll call your attention to the first one on regulation IS 20. So section 3. Basically, I took this and just added updated verbiage for what's called EEDAF. So we still have in South Carolina, it's a requirement through legislation that says thou shalt have opportunities for students to learn about jobs and careers through this EEDA Act. And that also drives the individual graduation plan, the IGP process. So I just wanted to make sure that that was referenced, because that is still active on the books. And then for section 4, I wanted to make sure that it noted that we have a new framework. Board members, you may recall last year we introduced that the state of South Carolina is going to a new national updated model. It had been updated for 40-something years. And so this is our year for planning, and then it goes into full effect 26-27. So I wanted to make sure that that reflected. So as school counselors and our career development facilitators are helping our young people do career interest inventories and so on, they're going to be referencing this new modernized, updated framework. So we added that. In section 5, we didn't make any changes because those are our school counselors. Again, this is what is required per the EEDA Act. And then on still under section 5, part B, the old former English teacher in me, I did want to update the verbiage in there to show that we need to follow the state's annual submitted work-based learning procedural guides and processes. And then part C, we no longer have what's called HSCW, high schools that work. We certainly follow the 10 principles. However, the state no longer has that as a separate requirement, funding structure. So I just updated that again to reference the new college and career framework that we will have to follow. In section 6, I just added all grade levels instead of just high school students, because again, college and career transition to work involves all grade levels. And then Miss Middleton, Latasha Middleton will be proud of me. I changed the word guidance in section 7 to school counselors because of the updated verbiage. And there was no changes in section 8 and 9. And then I appreciate our legal team. They added all of the federal and state law that pertain to that. So it's pretty straightforward on that. So all right, any questions? All right, the next one is a short one. It's kind of an important one. IS 20.1, and this is guidelines for solicitation of students for the purpose of employment. And so again, we just added the non-discrimination statement. If you'll, I'll please call your attention to section 3. I did do several verbiage updates in there. If you're looking at the red line copy, I basically wanted to update to again note we need to follow the state work-based learning activities as noted in the state manual and guidelines. Also for letter A, they only had apprenticeships. And so as I said, the definition of what counts as work-based learning has really morphed over the years. So I want to make sure it captured all of that. And then if you look in B, they just had, in our old AR, it just referenced businesses. I wanted to put interested community organizations and businesses, because we have some students that'll go out, Kappa. They'll go out with some nonprofit organization, get a great learning work experience for that. So I just want to make sure that that was there. And also I felt it was important that we note training agreement, and that'll actually go into more detail in the last one, in letter B. And then finally in letter C, I just, again, it was just referencing just apprenticeships. So I wanted to make sure that it was a more modern verbiage on that, and that it has to be tied to the student's IGP. That's per our career readiness now. And so I just want to make sure that that was in there. And on the summary, my apologies, the executive summary won't show the update for section 4, but Ms. Cartledge did, it is noted in the red line version. She just wanted to make sure that, so that we're in adherence. And anytime, of course, we're working with minors, just to make sure that we had the word shall instead of may, just to make sure they have a process for criminal background checks, history checks, so that our students are in a safe working environment. And then again, they appreciate they added the legal references for that. And the main thing I'm glad we still have this on record is because it's a balancing act. We don't want to become a employment agency, or South Carolina do, where we're always posting vacancies for employers. But if there is an opportunity under work-based learning, then that would be the exception for that. So, so those are the updates for that.
And Karen, that also allows a student to have the opportunity of leaving early for an instructional block when this is all aligned and scheduled properly, correct?
Yes, and that's actually covered in this
Right.
next one.
I just wanted to make note for the board to recognize.
Yes. And then lastly, IS 20.2 for your review that we have updated, and thank you, Christian Berry, for bringing that up. Again, section 1 and 2 is the same for the non-discrimination statements. So I'll call your attention to section 3. Wanted to, again, the state for their definition in the work-based learning manual has updated the definition for non-credit bearing. Because again, we have in Power School, we can capture service-based learning. We can capture a clinical experience that might not count toward a credit unit of credit. And we can actually list those in Power School for our reporting purposes. So I wanted to make sure that that reflected the state verbiage, that an improved non-credit bearing work-based learning must also meet the South Carolina career readiness indicators. So that is in there, and it references that if they want to get it on our accountability system in Power School, the student must be evaluated at a level 3 or higher by the employer, which I think is very fair. And that way, if we're getting the credit or the school's getting the credit for it, the employer has said, hey, they did a good job when they were out with them on the work-based learning experience. I also, in this one, because it's just overall about work-based learning processes, you'll see it had the old CATE, C-A-T-E, which we still reference it. It's okay. It's all right. But I did, again, the English teacher I went in and added a slash CTE because that's technically what the state looks at. But for section 4, that pretty much, there's no changes as far as for credit bearing. It's very black or white is what we can or can't do when a student is going to do a work-based learning. It's going to count as a Carnegie unit on their transcript. So that hasn't changed. There were some changes on part C of section 4. Again, I wanted to clarify a little bit, make it a little bit clearer. The example that was in the old part was about an accounting firm, but basically this is saying that if a student is going to get a credit on their transcript, the health sciences teacher can't be the one in Power School that's supervising the kid that's maybe going to do a welding project. It needs to be the teacher who is certified in that area. The career development facilitator can help with the collaboration process, and the school counselor, but the teacher is the one really where they need to be checking on the student and making sure, hey, are you learning what you learned in my class and applying that on the job? So I want to make sure that was clarified, and when to take it. And then lastly, on part E, I've added the training agreement there. On part G, under section 4, I did again want to reference that the state does require a worksite evaluation to be conducted at the middle and the end of each internship experience. And it is based on the profile of South Carolina graduates, so that is good. And then the other major change that was not when these ARs were out several years ago, we are required by the state to keep, if it's a credit-bearing course for internship or for career readiness, we have to keep that on file for 2 years. So the role of that career development facilitator is very helpful for that. And then, of course, we added the work-based references to federal and state applications. And then if our board members ever need to, we take the state manual, we add in our career development contacts. We have our forms that we use that helps the teacher, the school counselor, and the career development facilitator. We have a training agreement that is signed by all parties. This is available via the Beaufort County School website under the CTE section for that.
So let me,
So thank you so much for bringing it forward.
So now you said that I actually had someone the other day who was asking me some of that. So are you saying that basically, and for instance, we have let's say we have Sutcliffe Audio out there, and so if Sutcliffe Audio wants to have the student come and experience that, then there's a package for him to go online and say, hey, we'll take a student. Is that what this section is showing?
It can be, sir. Yes, sir. They can, if they're in the Beaufort feeder area or Battery Creek feeder area, they're welcome there's a contact for the career development facilitator. That'd be a good start. Or they're welcome to call our office. I've filled a lot of calls as well, but the employer is interested. And then we just go through a vetting process. And then they say, well, we want a student who's gonna, if you said it sound, they're gonna learn to wire sound systems for various things. So we say, okay, well, let's check to see with our career development facilitators, we have some students that have been taking a similar area that maybe would be interested.
It's a
And we'll
line.
go from there.
Line to the courses as well as the student's IGP, but they can go from there.
Okay, and actually, because of the fact that we were, some of us were talking the other day about about Sutcliffe, and some of us actually used to go there after school and do different things. And also, I used to go to WBTB, but I was able to that due to that being a part of my IEP. But in terms of someone asking me, they were asking me, well, how could we get those students, or how could we allow students to get that? So I'm not really sure. I think that you have to go through an MOU, but apparently it's not the MOU.
It's a training agreement.
It's a training. Okay.
Yes, sir. But the first step is just point of contact, and we find out, okay, what are your need? Again, it has to be more of a training opportunity. Then the nice thing about that, employers like it because with the training agreement, yes, they can pay them, but if it doesn't work out, they're not obligated by the Department of Labor because it was part of a mutually agreed plan.
Okay.
But we've had a lot of students, they do the internships and then they get hired on. So, and that's the ultimate goal too, I think. Great question.
Building those connections.
Yeah.
He's welcome to reach out to me.
Okay, yeah, but and for mine, actually, I did actually work with Mr. Galloway until, yeah, currently but until, yeah, but yeah, for years, but yeah, so yeah, mine's did become a real role into the community and dealing with the conferences, but yeah.
Yeah, if he's have him reach out to me, I'll be glad to work with them. Okay, any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Carr, appreciate it.
Thank you, Mrs. Gilbert. With that, board members, I'd like to draw attention to IS 38.1. Procedures for handling questioned or challenged school library materials. Board members, you had a very large role in this. I am saying this with the highest respect. This is a follow-up of the parent letter being added into the administrative regulation. With that, I have Ryan Copeland, who we have been very lucky to add to our division, who worked actually under Dr. Cox as well at Battery Creek. So
Short term, we got a short term, what is it now?
So we're updating a letter because there was, I don't want to misstate this, but there was concern regarding the 96 titles that we had reviewed and some of them to be revisited. We had a request. The meeting of mine from our board recommendation and approval through the board was to have the materials put that a parent would opt in to have access to these titles to read. So we put together a letter that has gone through legal, and we want to bring it forward to the board to update for you to know that this is our follow-up to the board action in regard to IS 38.
Awesome. You have anything else? Thank
You got it. Thank you, sir. So I want to turn this over quickly to Mr. Copeland as well. If there's any questions, follow-ups. Go ahead, sir.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Travis, and thank you for having me here
Glad you're here.
today. And Ms. McKenzie, who helped us with the red line version and all of the updating of ARs and put together this lovely executive summary for us. If I could draw your attention to that, it is nice and important. It only updates section 7, Roman numeral 7, subsection D, by review of the Board of Challenged Materials. So the 9 materials that the board voted on in August to be allowed to be checked out by students at the schools where these titles exist requires a parental opt-in form, essentially a permission
Yes,
form.
that- Yes.
Check out to be restricted both.
Correct. And the form that we use for that, the request to opt in, is almost an exact mirror of our opt out form. That kept it easiest for us. We only added the names, the titles of the 9 titles that came before the board, as well as the 1 additional title that was voted on by the state board, which was an Ellen Hopkins title. So those 10 are listed on this form, and the parent has the opportunity to, allow all 10, allow one of the 10, however many, the form gives them the option.
So can you walk through, so if I went to your library and I
Right.
wanted to take one of those titles, what would it look like for me, for myself?
So if you went and found one of these titles on the shelf, brought it to the librarian to the circulation desk, as soon as that title gets scanned, it shows in our system that's already been updated, our online catalog, it says this title requires parental permission. At that point, the email gets sent to the parent as well as a physical copy, just like we do with the opt.
Are you telling me that they are in general on the shelves with all the other books?
They're supposed to be behind.
They're,
counter.
yeah, right,
Are
right,
they in a
No, they're
restricted?
they're in a restricted
restricted
environment.
area.
But
Right,
but I go to you to get title X. And
correct.
They're marked up.
Right. And they are behind, right now, they're behind the circulation desk.
Now, we have not ever heard state, letter or response. We've not heard yes, fine, no, we haven't heard anything.
Right.
So in my view, non-response is concurrence,
Right.
and that's, we'll just go with that. Because this could change if we get something back.
I'm glad you're here
Correct.
this evening, sir. Thank you.
Questions?
So then the student would have to bring that letter back or electronic response or in order for me to have access to that title to take it out.
And that notation is made on that student record as well in the online catalog.
And basically that parent sign off that it's okay for that student to be able to have access to that book.
That title. Correct.
That does it for me. I don't know about nobody else. I'm gonna go ahead and say that.
Okay, so if there's no questions, I'm gonna take you quickly to IS 43. Now, I'm gonna say this with tongue in cheek because this is all about seat time. And each of you have put a lot of seat time in this evening. So what Ms. McKinsey has been very quickly and able to do for us, because we have found through some state records that seat time may be acquired electronically if you are able to clock the time that the student is accessing electronic material. We have a significant amount of courses and modules that are aligned to our state standards through Edgenuity. So what we've added onto this AR in IS 38, section 18 is the simple word, electronic. So seat time can be done at home where students just don't have to sit in a class, and we could utilize resources for tutoring versus seat time. So that is the one update. Obviously, we did the update on the superintendent's expectation being compliant with PCSD notification, but I did want to bring forward that the electronic opportunity now will exist for our schools, for our high schools, or high school credit courses. And that is a quick summary on that AR.
Go, because I got one too.
I thought it was simple.
Shit, time ain't simple.
Dr. Abby Duggins,
Yes, she's
Yes.
good.
she talked to us at the
Okay.
meeting that I was at this morning. And I had, it was not only talking seat time, it was also talking about truancy.
Hmm.
And I had no idea numbers of times you have truancy equals seat time equals,
Oh, yeah. Wow.
yeah. If it was 5, if you have more than 5,
If you have more than 5 in a block, it's a
Block.
10.
and then there's 10,
Technically, on the
and then
11th,
there's-
you have failed the course on an FA.
Right.
Yes, sir.
So that's my question is what's the
The
relation
difference.
between seat time and truancy?
So if a student has failed a course, subject to attendance. The regulation requires that student to retake the course, what we call on an FA grade, versus seat time that I have been absent 3 out of those 5 times. Does that make sense? All right, so that's the difference, but on a block, once you get to that 5th absence, you're at 10. And technically, the 11th, you're on a fail the course subject to attendance. Regulation stipulates that you must make that course up in the following semester of your academic school year and start that within the first 30 days in order to have the appropriate seat time all over again. And it is only through mitigating circumstances, and Karen, Ms. McKinney and myself are very tight on this, that we would even allow that to be initial credit electronically. It has to be that I am in a body cast. And we are very tight on that component, so to have the academic integrity. Do you want to share that? Okay.
Leah has a question. She said, does it need to state remotely as well as electronically?
It is a good question because they're right, they're not in the building.
That's a
So that's
little bit, my question,
Okay.
somebody is home, it's documented, they get on their computer, which can create a time bomb,
Mm-hmm.
they never turn it off.
No, the Edgenuity course gives you the amount of time
Gives you
and
time.
yes, sir.
Okay.
So you actually sit. Let me answer that. We'll go back to Mrs. Frazier. You actually sit for a pretest and it clocks your amount of time on a seat time scenario, the catcher versus an initial credit where you have to do the full,
Mhm.
right? But with the language remote could be put in because / remote. Because I could be completing that maybe in lieu of not being at work today because I'm on work for CTE and maybe my principal lets me sit in the library. Point well taken. So we will add that in with that recommendation. Yes, thank you. And I will tell you the high school principals will be
Real.
very, as will our parents. I have to share that, but that's a difficult phone call to manage. Why is my child sitting in the gym on a Saturday?
Well,
Seat time. Now go do something academically that we can clock on Edgenuity.
Yep.
A little different.
well, I think that this could possibly, open up Pandora's box, but I'm gonna leave it right there. I'm gonna leave it there. Yeah. I think
We-
open up Pandora's
Oh,
box,
we
but
did.
we'll see.
We did, but we have to err. Yes, we have to deal with it. We have to, life is not where it was yesterday, and we have to work with some type of content, being a little more contemporary and meeting some of the needs and still being within the regulation, our regulation.
I mean, and I definitely do hear that. And I'm really saying that I understand that you have to also, in the same time too, you have to meet people where they are sometimes from time to time. So I get it, but I'm just wants to be ready at playing devil's advocate. That it could open up Pandora's
Oh, it
box,
could.
and you know, so I just want to say it on the front end. I will definitely lend my support, but I in terms of I appreciate it, meet people where they are, and I understand that everyone have different situations. But I just want to put that out there, so I don't want to be surprised and say, "Oh, yeah, you know that." Did y'all not know? I just want to say, I'm gonna tell you front end. This is what I foresee, understanding the amount of calls and the different things that have been in the past. And the state come back and say, "Oh, it doesn't matter this year." Why did I mean? Excuse me. Why didn't you tell us that prior to this? You know, so I mean, it caused a real strain at that time. But I'll just leave it there. Thank y'all. I thank y'all for your due diligence on this as well.
So with that, board members, I want to take you to our last bullet on the agenda, and it is local board approvals. We also have LBAs, and I believe our choice applications coming forward to you. This, I understand it's been a long evening. If I could just keep you for a few more, I would appreciate that because these are items that we're held to bring forward. the LBA lists an annual review that's brought forward. This division has done a significant job of monitoring, decreasing that. If you recall back on your institutional history, at one point we had over 380 LBAs. So we have streamlined that significantly. We went from multiple pages to a front back. And with that, I want to take the opportunity to turn the page pun over to Ms. McKenzie. Karen, please.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Stratus.
Yes, ma'am.
Board members. I will try to be quick. I know we've gone
Thank you,
through a
Bob.
lot this evening, but these are some important opportunities for our students. So as you can see on our current active LBA list, one thing that I've really thought we needed to start doing was tracking when they opened up, what schools actually are utilizing them at the time. So this is a summary from the first semester of our year as to what we have. I have to give a little caveat though that I brought to y'all, graciously allowed me to bring an LBA in August for our Hilton Head cluster for Avid. So I have not added that one yet, but they will be added. They will be added. So this is just a review of those. And as you can see, we went down actually from 386 LBAs, we are down to 42. And we make sure that those are held to that integrity of our state standards. So.
And they are being used. So what you have on this of utilization in the prior year, Abbott will be added as well.
Mhm.
This is not, you utilize at the, middle school level?
Musical theater,
Yeah, that's not,
that's a new course that came in this past November.
that,
And it is at Beaufort High
right,
and Bluff and Battery Creek,
right, yeah.
not at the middle.
I thought we might have that. Oh, man,
No,
yeah.
no, we wrote, go ahead.
Why you think that?
Yeah.
Because I just thought the same thing when I looked at it. Our music teachers and our theater teachers work often together, so we end up with musical theater at middle school naturally, which is why they're not using the code. They put those kids together, it's usually an after school practice when they're doing a play. So they'll learn the songs and music, they'll learn the act and theater, and then put it together. But they are open to use that course if they choose to. So
Okay, 'cause,
I'm hoping we moving towards that.
okay.
Yeah.
Very good question.
Good.
Frazier has the motion for.
The LBA, thank you.
We do have two LBAs,
Yep, so,
because this they don't have to approve, but they have to approve the two
Yes,
LBAs.
yes, okay.
Or approve to take them to the board.
Board.
Full
Okay.
board.
Is the next.
Yes, ma'am.
Next two packets.
So we,
The mock trial.
Yes,
yes.
and the algebraic application. They do have the correct one. So and I do want to bring to the attention as well that that list coming forward to you right now from you as an academic committee, we do bring approval to the board to keep it live for the master's schedule for use in Power School. So there is a motion that is tied to the chart that you just reviewed.
Yes. The last few years, we've done that after we've gotten these
Oh,
approved.
okay.
If we want to do that now, we can, but we've been adding,
You wanted,
assuming that y'all
Okay.
approve.
so just for clarification, because Karen asked, Gilbert asked a question. That's gonna be the full motion together, including the LBA list and the two
Okay.
new, does that make
Perfect.
sense?
Yes, perfect. No, I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
So basically that's to motion to make it a living document, is that what I mean?
To include it for full board review with the two LBAs that we're gonna go over. The whole list.
coming.
Yep, and then we have two more.
We have two new ones. There's a Y for it.
Yes, and thank you, Karen, for catching that for Dr. Smith.
But this is a living document, correct? Well,
Technically it is,
right,
Mrs. Smith.
I
Yes, sir.
that's what I'm-
Yes, sir. It is.
It's-
It is. It's not
Soon as-
stagnant.
Yeah.
It is.
Soon as soon as they're approved, we put them on. Once they go into action, what'll happen is if the full board approves, then I'll go to our data services. They'll give me a course code, and on that day is the day that I added on here, so that we know when it became active for our schools.
And that's how you have the work plan design that LBAs must be by this time of year in order to get it to our schools with.
It's a lot of work.
sections.
Exactly.
Schedule. That's actually a very smart move at practice of your policy as on board.
It really
That
is.
as opposed to choice applications. Your design purposefully.
Yes, and it works out well. So our first LBA is one that's coming from Dr. Dixon and her extreme team. As you know, they're doing a tremendous amount of work right now in our math, trying to boost that math success for our students. And this one is called Algebraic Applications and Fluency. And what she really wanted to do with this was she wanted to work on students having more of a conceptual understanding of math, being able to truly understand very basic, what is addition, what does it need to add things together, rather than just be able to 1 + 1 is 2. So we still want them to know those facts and be fluent with it, but this course is really designed to help students build that conceptual understanding.
This was mentioned at the meeting this morning as well,
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yeah,
at the state.
really at the state in order, yeah, so that's interesting.
Yeah.
Tapping into our,
Following our.
They're gonna copy. We know
That's
that.
very smart. She's very good.
And I do appreciate Dr. Dixon and Ms. Rolfe for the work that they did, because they really looked at a clear-cut way to provide this opportunity to students. So that if you look at that sectional student opportunity, they're really looking at multi-data points in order to make sure that we don't allow any of those students to fall through. And that kind of coincides with what Dr. Cox was saying earlier about interventions. As they're looking at student behavior, they also look at student academic success. So that'll give them an opportunity to suggest a course like this that will help build up those concepts.
They're talking also about changing that, you have to take geometry before you take algebra.
That
It's in
has
effect this year,
an effect this year, sir. And
geometry and probability.
Yes.
yes,
Before you take algebra, you said?
Yes, sir. That's the exact look I had when they mentioned that this is the first.
many of us are biting our,
We're talking about having the visible component of geography, which makes the more ethereal component of algebra work.
so taking Pythagoras theorem, right, as you do the algebraic formula for the 90, for the proof.
Because then.
Today,
then-
yes.
Then you do it with a triangle and all that
Yes,
kind of stuff.
yes. And I strongly understand that, but there's other loopholes tied to that. But I do want to bring forward one thing that's unique. This was written to be for middle school and high school.
Mhm.
So she mastered the resources and everything both into one LBA. It'll be differentiated once we go to data services. I want to bring that to you as well. Colonel Guy, my fear with that math sequencing, it could really be that the highest math that a child may get is algebra 2 as they graduate. That is so there's multiple lenses to that, and I just want to keep that lens in front of you as board members as well.
This was brought up by other board members that saying that the math they teach today is not like
My lord.
it's so confusing and it's just terrible. And they really don't understand how mathematics has changed. They don't understand. And I went through the traditional math program, the algebra
Mhm.
and geometry and trigonometry.
Me too.
And then,
Calculus.
well, I didn't have calculus. I got calculus in college. And calculus is a completely different
It's a foreign language.
beast. And what I found with my grandson having to go to Khan Academy to learn how math is taught today is math is taught today starting at middle school, so that when you get to calculus, it is not language, because you're getting calculus kind of thinking in the way you do algebra. And so, I understand why.
My educator in me is
But-
hugging narrative, sir.
Yeah.
Yes.
So this is different.
Yeah. And we realize that too. And one of the things that Dr. Dixon was saying when she was putting this course in, because of course, Karen Skipper will tell you, I call and harass them when I'm working on these things. Well, what does this mean? I don't know about this. Let me talk to Dr. Stratus. So when I called Dr. Dixon, I was like, so you want this for every school? She was, yeah. I said, does every school need it?
She bet.
And
That was her.
she said, they need the opportunity to have it if a student needs it. And I said, thank you so much. Have a great night. So that kind of opened it up, which is why this one won't be specifically tagged for a specific school that's looking for it.
Okay.
Whereas if you look at the next one, Battery Creek really wants this program. So that's a true difference too. This is something we're putting in place as a Beaufort County School District to make sure that we're meeting the needs of that wild math sequence that we now have. It does, however, correlate to our math standards. And the other thing I really do like about this LBA that they put forward is it's not going to cost our schools to put it into place or our district. Dr. Stratus, you get a break. What it really is doing is it's using the materials we already have, but going back to the concepts of math rather than the foreign language of it. So.
A principal would have to give up another course at the high school because I want us to recognize this will not meet the state accountability component, student success, right? But it's some students require maybe a little more time for acquisition. That's what we're putting in place as well.
But based on this course, she did say, and she wanted that clearly marked, that she really wants a secondary mathematics person teaching this course, even though it would fall into that elective. She still wants that highly qualified educator and those highly qualified instructional materials being used. Any other questions on the algebraic? Okay. So the next one is mock trial in our courts. And this is a course that is going to focus on our South Carolina Bar Association provides various opportunities for kids to get involved. I'll be honest, I was really excited about this one. Dr. Thompson mentioned it. I did mock trial for about 20 years, had a state winning team. I would love to see that come back to the district. One of the great things about this and program for kids is they utilize attorneys from around the area to work with those students. And that's a real interesting thing to watch those kids learn from a true attorney. There are going to be some prerequisites for this. They're going to be looking at digging into some law education. What is the laws about? What does a court system look like? They do need to have a positive GPA and be in good standing. They do need at least one teacher referral. So those are the things that they were talking about prior to an interview. And it's very typical. One of the things that the South Carolina Bar suggests when you're doing one of these LRE, law-related education programs, is interview your students ahead of time. Give them that opportunity to tell you why they're interested in it. And that's really valuable because if I'm that kid that really can't get to where I need to be, I have great things that I want to do, that interview might be the place where you can make that happen. I will say that this was probably one of the most, if not the most detailed application I have ever received.
That's cool.
This is Battery Creek High
Battery
School.
Creek.
The two teachers that did this are William Kinsey, who I would read his certifications, but we've had a long night already, so we don't want to be here for another hour. And Ms. Cahoon. So the two of them work together and they will be teaching this in different segments, but they laid this thing out. I mean, I wish someone had done this when I took it in. Another big thing with them was as their ML population continues to rise, they want to make sure that they have opportunities for ML students in place, but that they have support in those opportunities. And the same thing, they were very diligent about adding things in for students with IEPs, students with 504s. So I did include some of that so you could see they dug that deep in how this was lit at Battery Creek
They
High
just
School.
accommodations.
Very much so. It was the most comprehensive LBA application I've ever seen.
Tony said that one other time for the pre-AP Lit course
Yes,
at Beaufort High.
exactly.
The time that we.
I did
It's
this to my son. And,
Where?
and, he can give it out to the local board.
And he's an attorney.
Yes, he is.
Or,
Thank you.
Like to do it.
You said that you want to bring back the,
This mock trial program, it's fantastic.
so what would it take for us to bring that back?
When this goes to the full board for y'all, I'll say yes.
And it's back.
And then I'll be back. We have to have board
And
approval.
then we have to encourage schools
Schools.
to adopt it, run with it.
And I did this actually with a middle school for years, and to see those kids, because they get a true case and all the evidence, they become the attorneys. So they have to really dig into, it's fun to watch them.
Well, actually, to be honest with you, I would say that we have a form of that now. With the debates, the debates.
Incubate debate.
Listen, I mean, I'm talking about, those kids are, they're warriors. I mean, I'm talking about those kids are, they're furious. I mean, when they go in there, they only have a certain amount of time to spit it out and debate against each other. So I would say that we definitely have that. But so I would say that there's definitely a need for that in this district already, because we already have kids who are moving in that direction and who participate at a certain level, because I know that we sent a couple kids far across the outside of the county to represent the county. Like I got a call.
Florida.
Right, well, one of our schools did not did not want some students to impart in that, and I wasn't very happy about that. But I would say what we do for one, we have to do for all. That's what I'm talking about in terms of the supporting in terms of at the board level versus school level, because if we're gonna do for one, then we need to do for all. So that's that need to be transferable decisions. But anyways, but yeah, so yeah, I would, long story short, I would definitely support that being board for full year.
And if I could just say this, you have no idea how spot on you are with that comment. Because Mr. Kinsey is one of our Incubate debate coaches, and that's where this originated from. He's like, my kids are loving being able to develop a evidence-based argument and get out there and prove their point. And he when he reached out, he said, I want something else. And I was like, let's gave me my window too.
And that's what drove to this
Yeah,
course.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there will be a motion to move these two forward to the full board.
We've got
Frazier, if you can make the motion. Motion number 2.
Motion number 3.
Okay, I move that the academic committee move the algebraic applications and the mock trial and court system local board approved courses as presented on October 23rd, 2025 to the full board for approval.
I will second.
Check.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Are we ready?
We can
Ready?
move to,
HAC.
yep,
Okay, so,
Choice.
let me,
Are you doing HAC?
oh,
first?
go ahead,
Sorry.
go to choice, go choice.
I'm sorry.
No, go choice.
team choice.
Yes,
Yes,
team
there's
choice.
2 of them.
Yeah.
And
Two schools that have put forward also well detailed applications. It took me a week to go through on that eyes. It was so comprehensive. But Well Branch Elementary School is putting forward to be designated as a STEAM school. As you know, they're one of our MedTech 7 schools. When I spoke with Mr. Williams, the principal there, he said that's been so rich for our students that we want that to continue, and we want it to spread out just across our school. They're going to already use some of the things they have in place. They have the Z space in place. They have Project Lead the Way in place and those sort of things. But they wanted that designation because they want that to continue to be a focus within their school and for their parents to know that. And for the community to know that's something that they offer there at Well Branch Elementary School.
And he's expanding his Z space usage as well as the tablet usage associated with the PLTW launch. And that again is at no cost.
Correct.
Subscription fees for Z space he has bundled into his Title I accounts. So he maintains subscription annually for the 3D dimensional work. And it's his idea is not just having it in a lab, but this is how we work throughout the school.
And
I think that is at the core of his application and shifting the campus direction instructional.
And the other school choice application that was submitted this year for designation was Hilton Head Island High School for Visual and Performing Arts. And I will just say, Hilton Head has long held their heads above pretty much the entire state
They are
on arts. And I've been kind of gnawing on the principal a little bit for this one for a couple of years. And I finally said, this is your year to get this done, to get it out there. You're getting ready to really be able to market the whole package. You're going to have a beautiful new building. You're going to be a designated visual and performing arts school. You know, you've got Avid, you've got IB, you've got some really strong things happening there. There is change being made there along with that grant. I'm excited about this. And I went through when I was looking through their application, they currently offer 47 unique courses in the arts at that school. And they have 4 that they're looking at adding for next year. So you're thinking that is massive, truly a massive undertaking. So I would like to be able to take these forward to the board as well for approval.
Leah, can you read the motion number 3, please?
Absolutely. I move that the academic committee move the Whale Branch Elementary School STEAM and the Hilton Head Island School Visual and Performing Arts requests for choice program designations as presented on October 23rd, 2025 to the full board for approval.
I will second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So board members, I have to say thank you.
Thank you.
Because should this be approved at November 4th, this will be part of the choice application for the upcoming academic school year. That choice window will be opening earlier this year on November 10th.
Okay.
So the timing is perfect. The last item is with regard to a quick update on Health Advisory Council.
Yep.
It is probably the last page in your handouts. If I could draw your attention to the top, where it has Roman numeral 9 under attendance. What the Health Advisory Council is asking to be is a little more definitive. I'll read it out loud. If a member is absent from 2 or more meetings, because it was not explicit in the bylaw, the majority of the HAC members may recommend to the board the removal of that member. That member shall be given written notice by the board chair and the opportunity to be heard before removal. So at this point, there was no limit in regard to your member, but you may have only attended once during the year.
So is this, I'm trying to get a handle on timeline. I don't know how often they meet.
We meet almost monthly,
Almost monthly.
and we have met bi-monthly as well, but we meet generally almost monthly. Yes, sir.
So it would start when and end, what would be the time limit?
So there are
of
2
existing?
terms run about 2 years. But the way it is situated right now, we won't give notice to someone who hasn't been at attendance because you really don't have any language of saying what says that you should be withdrawn from class, if I could put it into that context. And again, this comes from the board, HAC, the understanding that they make the recommendation, because it could be mitigating circumstances again.
Sure.
Again, I'll go to the body cast, right? So that's why they wanted that it goes back to that it's not just a cutoff.
And they may recommend.
They may recommend to the full board.
Leah, any questions?
Is this coming from the full board or coming from the chairman?
This is coming from the full HAC,
HHC.
from the health
HAC.
advisors, yes, from the full HAC, not just the chair, sir, but it's a full. This actually came, they wordsmith, and we would not send out letters without, because there's nothing that says, well, when is it that we give you notice?
Leah,
Okay.
can you, read number 4?
Yes, absolutely. I move that the academic committee approves the updates presented by HAC to their bylaws and move to the full board for approval.
I will second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Stern one out.
Actually, board members, thank you.
Yeah,
You
thank
did a yeoman's job of
A lot of
agenda.
stuff. Almost like an operations committee.
Oh, I've never been to that.
Yeah, you don't want to go
You
to.
think?
Better than other OEs.
Ellen Weaver went on and on.
We have a
Visit to Ace.
I had a good.
I'm gonna tell you, Sarah, I watched her. I was so impressed with her.
so the last thing we need to talk about is
Future topic. She-
as well as
Did you speak with Dr. R?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
But
But she was truly wonderful watching her with the students
Well, I think she said
and
that,
sincere.
she said that's the best, she'd seen students respond and react.
We,
Today's.
we have one more thing that we need to do before
I
we
do
adjourn.
apologize.
two more things.
Two more
Okay.
things. One, future topics.
Future topics, and the other is talking about the November meeting. That if the November meeting is scheduled the day before the Thanksgiving vacation. So
good
it was
with December.
recommended that we move it to December 2nd.
That is up to you all.
I think that's the date I'm in
Yeah, you were gonna be gone.
yes. So I'm in Greenville. So one time in 6 years, I want to go to that instructional roundtable.
But you're good for December?
Yes.
So it was going to be for Tuesday, December 2nd.
She's needed somewhere.
Because we only have one board meeting,
That month.
which would be December 9th.
So,
So we meet before the board meeting, which would be good.
Be available.
so if I may, subject to the amount of work that we brought forward now, I don't know if we're gonna have much more on agenda because you have been so gracious at approving our choice, our LBA is approving our LBA list.
There's quite a few, there's still,
We have ARs from student
Still
service.
got some other
Then
stuff.
have this-
It might be a shorter meeting, but
We still
we
have
have,
other three.
we have 4 AR and
And an
OE that will be.
OE student 14.
Yes.
Okay, so then,
that would be.
Yes.
right.
Leah,
So y'all gonna meet twice in that?
She might not be available on the December 2nd. What about on?
Leah's not available on the 2nd?
No.
Okay, so
So
there's
when
there's
would
no
the
other
board
date that
meeting
y'all
be,
can do it
Mom?
in November?
It's
Well,
Thanksgiving.
So that's.
We raised the whole last week is Thanksgiving, which is just a mess for everybody.
And I do understand that, but my concern is that that I noticed now that we're beginning to skip months in meetings. What we're talking, and I'm not a component of not having a meeting during a month, because then things get behind, and if we go ahead and if our regs calls for us to do things at a certain point in time, we need to stick with them. Just because we can't meet on that certain date, does not mean that we can't nail down another day in a month.
Mr. Smith, so for the month of November, we don't have any other dates because the last week is Thanksgiving. So there are already meetings scheduled the week
Before
So
it's
that's
clogged
why
up with
moving
all the other committee meetings.
So there weren't other meetings. There aren't other days available because of the other committee meetings that are scheduled.
So we couldn't go early in the day, like I said, now we went to at 3 o'clock, no other day.
No,
have the
and
work-
besides the fact that we can handle the business without having a meeting every single month.
Yeah.
So the committee members are not available to meet in November. We're working to make it meet. And besides the fact that Dr. Straddles is saying that we may not even need to meet.
But it was
I'm
just
not
confirmed.
available the first week of December. Can we maybe look at Monday, the day before the meeting, if it's even necessary? If not,
And
I'm
that's
fine with pushing it further back to the
Mrs.
month of December.
And
Yes,
Mrs. Frazier,
December.
that was understandable, but also there was just brought to the attention that there will need to be, that there will need to be a meeting because there are 4 or 5 OEs and also some other things. There are about 6 things that do need to be met with. And my thing about it is, you miss meetings and you come to board meetings and we have all these things that may need to be talked about. And that makes the agenda long. So all this stuff play a part, and that's what my experience as a veteran board member comes in at. And then some people are saying that the meetings are, or they need to leave or different things. So therefore, I'm trying to prevent those things from happening, so that we all get the time that we need for these meetings.
Is it possible to meet on December 1st, recognizing that the 25th of November,
The first isn't,
people may be traveling?
I'm not
for
available.
Thanksgiving.
I'm not available on the first.
Dr. Carr's not
Okay.
available on Monday.
I can do the 4th, 5th, or 8th. Because
I would love to do December 8th.
Yes,
Great.
December 8th works for
Good.
me as well.
You good, Leah? Okay.
Yes, December 8th works for me as
All
well.
right. December 8th. That way we can get stuff done before the board meeting.
Look, it's either the 25th when I'm traveling, but, or I give up my birthday.
I know, that's what I just thought. I was like.
I was gonna say.
I'm going to be in Vegas, sit here.
Leah, can we have a motion to adjourn?
No future topics.
Future topics.
Future topics.
I can say that.
Do you have anything?
No, we don't.
We're gonna have we have the ARs.
AR's coming.
And the OE 14.
Yes.
So that really will be our
All right,
agenda.
that sounds fun.
All right.
Because operationally, you guys are
December 8th.
more than generous.
At 4 o'clock.
4 o'clock.
Awesome.
Think
I
we
would
have
like to
vote.
make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Thank you.
And I will second. All those in favor?
Aye.